As with the previous spell levels, the Inquisitor has some tasty options for 4th and 5th level. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here to keep going on with the 1st edition Pathfinder Inquisitor, this time talking about their 4th and 5th level spells. But before we get into the selection on offer for you today, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already joined such a legendary roster, then go on ahead, go on down there, hit that like button, and share the video far and wide. But now, let's talk about the spells that you want to keep your eyes on at these spell levels. And to begin with, for your 4th level spells, we have Divine Power. Use Divine Power to give yourself a +1 luck bonus on attack, weapon damage, strength checks, and strength-based skill checks for every 3 caster levels, max of a +6 bonus. You also gain 1 hit point per level and an extra attack on full attack. However, that is not cumulative with haste or speed enhancement effects on your weapons. So, if you have haste or speed, this spell's bonuses to you will be somewhat limited, but all the way around, still a pretty solid pick given the strength focus build we're going with here. Then, for the next spell, we have Enchantment Foil. For 1 hour a level, you get a +4 bonus versus enchantment spells and effects. If you succeed on your save, you identify the spell as if you had succeeded at a spellcraft check. You may also act as if you had failed your save, gaining a +20 bonus on bluff to do so. Any creature that's using magic to detect this ploy or make you speak truthfully must succeed on a caster level check with a DC 15 plus your caster level to do so. And that's not an insubstantial difficulty there. A full spellcaster will have a decent chance of succeeding at it, but if you put any points into your bluff skill, you are going to be a fairly difficult creature to be detecting on this, especially if they're using any kind of magic to try to make this happen. And the more spells you're forcing the enemy to burn up, the better. But going on from there, with the next spell we have is Blade of Light. You touch 1 melee weapon and to infuse it with pure sunlight. It sheds light as per the daylight spell, counting as magic and good for overcoming damage reduction, and you gain a +2 sacred bonus on attack rolls against undead, and it deals +1d6 points of damage on a hit. Against incorporeal undead, it counts as having the Ghost Touch enhancement. The weapon auto-confirms critical hits against foes vulnerable to sunlight, such as vampires. Definitely a great one to have, especially if you're dealing with an undead-heavy campaign. But then we come to Freedom of Movement, which is a classic spell. You touch a target and for 10 minutes per level, they can move and attack normally, even through magic effects and influences that hinder movement, such as paralysis, solid fog, slow, and web. All combat maneuver checks to grapple the target fail. The target also automatically succeeds at any grapple or escape artist checks to escape a grapple or pin. They may also move and attack normally underwater, although note, this doesn't allow you to breathe underwater unless you're normally able to do so. So, staying underwater too long is still dangerous for your health, but you can still move about and fight normally. Just don't go throwing a spear, knife, or anything like that underwater. It's not really going to make it very far. Then, the next 4th level spell for you to look at is Coward's Lament. Pick a target within 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 levels. For 1 round a level, each time the target doesn't attack you in melee, they make a will save to resist taking a cumulative -1 penalty to their armor class, attack, and saving throws. The penalties reset to 0 once they attack you in melee. However, these penalties don't increase if the target is somehow restrained from attacking you, such as other persons physically barring their way or moving them back, any impassable terrain or magical effects that might prevent them from moving forwards. However, if they are free to move about, these penalties will kick in. They just have to make this will saving throws to prevent it from happening. So definitely another great one. And the fact that it's forcing this will save to happen every round means even creatures with a good will saving throw are going to start taking penalties, and those penalties make it more and more likely each time that they're going to fail the will save. So definitely a good one to have, and this will make life miserable for spellcasters in particular. But then I'm going to throw out an example here of a spell that you want to avoid taking, the kind that you want to watch out for, at least from a mechanical standpoint, which ones you don't really want to burn your spell slots on. This example for 4th level is Mass Daze. Target one or more humanoid creatures at a range of 100 feet plus 10 feet per level, no two of which can be more than 30 feet apart. You cloud the minds of humanoid creatures with 4 or fewer hit dice so that they take no actions. Humanoids of 5 or more hit dice are not affected. A dazed subject isn't stunned, so attackers get no bonus against it. After a creature has been dazed by this spell, it's immune to the effects of this spell for 1 minute, so essentially the rest of combat. And you can see why this isn't really a great spell. Creatures with 4 hit dice or less, while common, they're really not going to be the kinds of creatures you're particularly fighting a whole lot by the time you get access to 4th level spells. And sure, they'll be there, but I mean, really, that's not going to be much of a thing. And when it is, notice that this is specifically limited to humanoid creatures, which again, that's humans, dwarves, elves, drow, halflings, all the more generalized races that players will be encountering over the course of the game. But then again, you're burning up a 4th level spell just to kind of daze them for 1 round. And again, you're limited on the hit dice and the type of creature that you're allowed to daze. All the way around, you're better off using a different spell, and then just, I mean, by the time you have this, you and your party should be a sufficient enough level to be able to just absolutely carve your way through that kind of opposition without really too much difficulty, or at least not the kind of difficulty where you're spending a 4th level spell. So spells like Mass Daze definitely, at least for me, in my opinion, experience, don't really work out all that great, or at least they're not a good trade value for your 4th level spell slots. But going on from there, we have our 5th level spells, and the first one is an interesting one. It's Wall of Silver. You select a point within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level to create a transparent silvery wall, 20 feet high and 20 feet long per level. This silvery energy acts as a wall of force for spells with the evil descriptor, and evil-aligned creatures passing through will take 3d6 plus 1 damage per caster level, max of a plus 20, and are blinded for 1 round. Evil creatures vulnerable to silver, devils and lycanthropes for example, take 1d6 damage a level for a max of 15d6, are staggered for 1 round, and permanently blinded. A successful will save halves the damage and negates the blindness. Also, you can cast this down on an area where that is currently occupied by creatures, forcing them to take a reflex save. Now, if they succeed on the reflex save, they negate the damage and end up on the side of the wall of their choice. So, depending on the situation, you could definitely do a lot of damage. My first thought is, go with a hallway. Go with the hallway that's 20 feet wide, 20 feet long, 20 feet of width and height, and then set it down running the length of the hallway, so that way any evil creatures in the area have to continuously pass through it, constantly taking that damage and the will possibly being blinded or even permanently blinded, depending on if they're vulnerable to silver or not. So definitely a fairly useful spell, and it gets a bonus against some of the more dreaded and potent of enemies that you could be dealing with over the course of your adventuring career. Then we come to Righteous Might. For 1 round per level, your size increases to the next category, so medium becomes large. You gain a +4 size bonus to your strength and constitution scores, take a -2 penalty to your dexterity, you get a +2 enhancement bonus to your natural armor, a damage reduction of 5 versus evil or good, depending on if you're channeling positive or negative energy, and at 15th level, this damage reduction becomes 10 versus evil or 10 versus good. So definitely this is a great buff all the way around. The damage reduction is nice, but by 15th level there's ways to get around that. But really you're getting that size bonus to your strength and con, and you're becoming a large size creature. Your equipment also scales up in size with you. So any weapons that you have are going up to the next size category for die damage. So absolutely all the way around a great combat buff for a melee focused build. Then the next spell that you want to keep your eyes on is Dimensional Blade. It's a swift action to cast this on yourself, and you turn a melee weapon in your hand into a 2-dimensional object, allowing all melee attacks to be made as touch attacks for 1 round. Bludgeoning weapons deal half damage as slashing damage, and force effects such as Mage Armor will still provide their armor class bonuses, but really, this is going to take off a decent chunk of defense for a lot of different creatures. Now, creatures with a high dexterity score aren't really going to be affected by this too much, but touch armor classes don't always tend to get quite so high as those creatures wearing armor and stacking on other bonuses such as deflection bonuses from, rings of protection. Then after Dimensional Blade, we have Divine Pursuit. For 1 minute a level, you select a type of movement available to the target creature that you can see. You gain that movement at the speed and maneuverability of that creature. So if they have a burrowing speed or swim speed, you can actually gain a means of breathing properly for the duration of this particular spell. So you can actually effectively pursue this creature. Just note though that if the creature gets more than 1,000 feet away from you, the effect of this spell ends and you lose that movement type or revert to whatever your movement type is available for particular terrain. So if you have your own burrow speed or swim speed, you go back to your own there. Then, going up after that, we have another example of the kind of spell that you want to avoid at 5th level, and this option is Mass Cure Light Wounds. You heal 1 creature for every 2 levels, no 2 of which can be more than 30 feet apart, for 1d8 points of damage plus 1 per caster level, max plus 25 on each. Like other cure spells, Mass Cure Light Wounds deals damage to undead in its area rather than curing them. Each affected undead may attempt a will save for half damage. So you can see why this isn't all that great. For a 5th level spell, this is not really an effective way of healing. In fact, if you're new to D20 games, there's no penalties really for losing hit point damage, unless of course your DM has home ruled or house ruled anything in. So really you're better off in most cases saving healing for after the fact. Exceptions to this are spells like the heal spell, which also removes status effects and heal a lot of hit points in one go. And the fact that you can heal multiple creatures with this is nice, but it's not good enough to justify burning a 5th level spell slot. So more often than not, 9 times out of 10, hell, 95 times out of 100, you're going to be better off using any of the other spells, any of these other buffing spells for yourself, your allies. Those will produce greater effects for you than this will. So this is the kind of spell you want to avoid taking, in this case, using. You're a spontaneous divine spellcaster, meaning any of these spells discussed so far you can choose to use at any particular point in time. So on the odd occasion where Mass Cure Light Wounds might actually be kind of useful for you, then obviously go ahead and use it. The other exception to this is if it fits your build. If it fits your build, your style, whatever you have imagined and you're going for with your Inquisitor, then go with that. This guide is meant to be just that, a guide. There's no set in stone way to go about playing any particular character. So take everything here with a grain of salt, or for just what it is, a guide to what's going to be a bit more mechanically effective for your character. Go with whatever spells fit your theme or situation at hand. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you like the spell selection? Or is there anything you might throw out there and recommend? Hit those like or dislike buttons, and remember, if you're new here to the Gamer's Den, go on down to hit the subscribe button and become a regular member here at the channel. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.